John, it has been a very long time. Thanks for calling in.
Rich, great to chat with you and to talk a little ball. And opening day, of course, for a baseball fan, opening day is like New Year's Day, and all of the things that we ascribe to that day on the calendar, where we party on New Year's Eve and we make New Year's resolutions to do better and things we're going to correct and maybe start with a clean slate and get rid of all of the down things in the past. In baseball, on opening day, all those things actually exist. Every team gets a clean slate. They've all resolved to do better. They've made changes to correct deficiencies. And although the Atlanta Braves, I guess they've sort of done a different thing, but I think for a baseball fan, this is New Year's Day. So, Rich, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too, John Miller. Happy New Year to you. And I guess you mentioned the Braves right there. They made a huge trade last night with the Padres, who have suddenly cast their lot in the mix in the NL West in a way that nobody would think that the Padres would cast their lot, making off-season expenditures like James Shields, who's their opening day starter today against Clayton Kershaw. The Dodgers, as we all know, Matt Kemp is now on the Padres, and they made a huge trade for Craig Kimbrell, one of the best closers in the game, along with Melvin Upton, going from the Braves to San Diego last night. Before we get into the Giants and the rest of the season, John, what do you make of that trade?
Well, the timing of it, first and foremost, I think it was sort of astonishing. After the rosters had already been set for every team, that's when they made the trade. Spring training was over. All of the auditioning for positions and whatnot was over. And then they make this blockbuster trade. So I don't know if I remember the timing of the deal quite like that before. But at the same time, A.J. Preller, the new general manager of the Padres, the old phrase from the philosopher Goethe, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. Now, I know that somewhere A.J. Preller studied that, because nobody has been more bold than A.J. Preller this offseason. And he really, in some ways, he's putting his neck on the line, because he's made these bold moves. He's brought in some big stars. Their payroll has gone way up, and they're going for it right now. And the people in San Diego are energized. They're excited. And they're more excited about this team than any Padres team in a long, long time. And we'll see how it all works out. But they already had an excellent closer, Joaquin Benoit, whose numbers were sterling last year. He took over the closer's role after they traded Houston Street before the trading deadline. And now he's the eighth-inning guy again. And then you have Kimbrell. So at the end, you're going to have to beat the Padres in the first 6 innings or so, because their bullpen looks like it's going to be lights out.
Yeah, and they have both Uptons, just like the Braves had. Melvin Upton now coming with Kimbrell and Carlos Quentin, Cameron Maybin, and a couple prospects going to Atlanta. I'm on the phone right now with the voice of the San Francisco Giants, 21-year voice of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, John Miller, here on the Rich Eisen Show. So the Giants fans coming into this season, what do they expect? Obviously, this team has the same general manager and the same kid in Posey and Bumgarner, and that might be just enough for them to contend in a way. Obviously, it's a different sport, baseball, than the other sports, but it does seem that they've got the right mix at the most important spots, John. What to expect of the Giants this season?
Well, to your first question, Giants fans, I think, expect a lot. They expect the Giants to be really good. They expect them to take it all the way into October. Again, they're getting kind of used to that sort of thing. Some sort of look at it, well, if it doesn't happen this year, well, it's an odd year. We'll retool and come back at them bigger and better than ever the year after. But the Giants themselves do not look at it that way. They look at it as this is their time right now. So you have Bumgarner at the top, and nobody's better in October. I mean, in the history of the game, nobody's been better than him in the World Series, that's for sure. So can they get there? They don't have Pablo Sandoval any longer. They picked up Casey McGee, who's a local guy, grew up a Giants fan, and he had an excellent year with the Marlins last year. And what about the rest of that pitching staff? For the Giants and all of these runs, this foundation of the team's success has been the rotation, but there are a lot of question marks after Bumgarner. Tim Lincecum's been a question mark for 3 years in a row. He wasn't strong enough even to be used in the postseason as a starting pitcher. The last 2 postseasons the Giants were in, Last year, he wasn't really used at all. He had one game in a blowout where he pitched an inning, and he got injured in that one. So I think Matt Cain's coming back from some elbow surgery. He's feeling great. He's throwing well. But how will he come back from this surgery? That remains to be seen. Tim Hudson's going to turn 40 in July. How much does he have left? Jake Peavy, he's getting older, and he finished very poorly in the spring. How much does he have left? So these are all questions the Giants will have to offer. It's possible, and I haven't heard anything that it's going to be done, but it's possible that Ryan Vogelsong will make the start in place of Peavy tomorrow night. Vogelsong finished up the spring very strongly, but I think that was part of the plan for the Giants. They have Vogelsong and Petit as the 6th and 7th starters. Not many teams start the year with 7 starters.
Well, they got 13 pitchers on the 25-man. I'm on the phone with John Miller right here on the Rich Eisen show. So do you prescribe to the Nationals being the prohibitive favorite to win the World Series this year?
Well, I think the Nationals, they were the best team in the league last year, and somehow the Giants beat them. They weren't better than the Giants in October, let's put it that way. But I think now they've added Max Scherzer. This is a formidable team, but they have some injury problems at the beginning. So we'll see if that pitching can carry them, even with some big pieces of that lineup missing. I think the team to beat in the Western Division is the Dodgers. And if they can answer some questions about their bullpen in a positive way, because right now their closer, Kenley Jansen, is going to be out for the first at least a few weeks of the season, and Brandon League, who is a possible replacement for him, he's out. He may be out for the year when it's all said and done. So they have a lot of questions about that bullpen, and that ultimately was their undoing in October last year. So their starting pitching, I think, is outstanding and very comparable to the Nationals. And they don't have some of their big hitters from last year. Notably, Matt Kemp will be in Dodger Stadium today facing Clayton Kershaw for the Padres, and he was their best hitter along with Adrian Gonzalez down the stretch last year. So I think those teams are going to be awfully good. The Cardinals are going to be good again, and I think sentimentally, I'm hoping that the Cubs under Joe Madden are going to be really good when it's all said and done this year.
Yeah, John Miller on the phone right here. I mentioned this is the first opening day for the Yankees. It's going on right now that they've had without Derek Jeter since 1995, and you called essentially on the radio Jeter's first big playoff moment of his career as a rookie, the Jeffrey Mayer home run. I played it at the end of the first hour as an example of one of the best radio calls I've ever heard, how you were on the moment, a moment that you would least expect to happen, John. How do you do such a thing as a broadcaster?
Well, that number one, that moment, it would not have played out the way it played out then, because now we have the replay. We go to the replay and get it right.
That's right.
Or hopefully get it right. And I shouldn't have said anything about it. People were asking me about it the next day because, that was a big game and it got a lot of notoriety and whatnot. People were playing it on radio stations all over the country, and so I kept getting called. And I just told the truth, and then I thought, I should have kept that little secret to myself. But it
was a terrible call, John. I mean, you were on the spot. It was brutal. I mean,
but all I did was literally I took a quick look at the monitor, because on television they have a close-up of the play. So I was 600-700 feet away from the right field wall when Tony Tarasco went to the wall. So I took a quick look at the monitor, something I learned from doing television all those years, and they have a close-up. So I saw the whole thing, and very clearly, and I just called it the way I saw it unfolding. That's all.
John, before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the passing of Lon Simmons, the longtime Bay Area sportscaster and beloved by many in the area that you've been so fortunate to broadcast from, and give you the floor on Lon, John.
Well, Lon Simmons, he was one of my favorite human beings and one of my favorite people, just a great guy, and one of the legendary voices of the game, one of the greatest actual voices of the game, in my opinion, and a great announcer for the 49ers, and he did the Oakland A's for several years, but always known, I think, by some of us who grew up in that certain time as a Giant, the voice of the Giants, and really the Giants to us, because he's the one who taught us the game and taught us the rich story and tradition of the Giants, and described the legendary and considerable exploits of Willie Mays and Willie McCovey and Juan Marichal, Orlando Cepeda, Gaylord Perry, and the great players who played for the Giants at that time. You could hardly help but be a Giants fan. He and Russ Hodges, another Hall of Famer, they were partners. And I think it says a lot about Lon that he had such affection for Russ. And to the very end, Russ was his great friend and close person that Lon always remembered fondly. Lon was kind of larger than life. He was very tall, a booming voice. He had, in his prime, he had movie star good looks. A good friend of his at one point was Frank Sinatra.
Oh, boy.
And, when Sinatra had a birthday party in Palm Springs, Lon was on the guest list. So, anyway, for me, one of the great pleasures of doing Giants baseball was a chance to visit with Lon and pick his brain. And I had all these memories of all those great teams back in the 60s, and I could ask him about all these different guys and different plays because he had a photographic memory of all of that. So to tell you the truth, I had a few more things I wanted to ask Lon. I had a little more time I wanted to spend with Lon, and he had a great sense of humor. It was always about the laugh in the final analysis, whether it was Lon and Frank Sinatra or Lon and you. He wanted to have a few laughs, and he was always looking for the laughs. So between you and me, I had a few more questions for Lon, and I had a few more laughs I wanted to have with him, and that's the way it goes. So I won't have that chance now. But for Giants fans, I think the echoes of Lon Simmons with his Giants home run call of "Tell It Goodbye" is still echoing through our minds and will for a long, long time.
Well, John, when I got a chance to call baseball games as a SportsCenter anchor back in the late 90s, you're the person who was kind enough to take my phone call to pick your brain. You're simply one of the best. You were the standard I wanted to live up to, and I hope this can be a regular occurrence of you calling into this show, John.
Well, I'd be happy to. Always happy to talk some ball, and I miss those days where we were both ESPNers.
Yes.
But it was great to get to know you, and I know you spent a good amount of time in Northern California. I know people up north of the Bay Area who still talk about you like you're a local guy up there. So.
I'll take it. John, have a great opening day broadcast. We'll chat down the line, hopefully.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
You
All
bet.
the
That's
best.
John Miller, the voice of the San Francisco Giants.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.